Visible Moon Labor. My name is Daniel Vallis, and welcome to our channel. It's amazing what the Lord has shown us and given us wisdom over just the past few hours and days as we've gone forward, learning new things about a sign. And that's incredible when the Lord always gives us new, fresh things, new wisdom, new knowledge, new insights. I would be worried if the Lord was not showing us new things. We'll never have it all figured out. And so it's incredible to see how the Lord has given us wisdom as we go forward, what we need, how this time is so incredibly important. There's so many celestial things, so many things coming together, and then on top of that, we see the Lord working and giving us peace, giving us strength, giving us grace, and giving us wisdom. And I was just talking with another watchman tonight about how when we go outside, it's really different than when you look on a computer versus stellarium or computer graphics like that. When you go outside and look at creation, when you look at the celestial events that are ongoing at this time, this unique celestial time, when so many signs are coming together right now, so many rare events in the heavens and the weather even, in earthquakes and geopolitical events, so much has recently happened and is ramping up, you can tell the travail pangs are coming. Sudden destruction is coming. We heard biblical echoes of peace and safety just the other day. We see so much telling us, watch during this time. This is an important time. There are things where we need to watch, not just throw everything away when it doesn't work the way we think it should. No, we need to watch. We know this time is important, and we need to watch and be willing to learn and open to the wisdom that the Lord is going to show us, which means we have to watch. We got to observe and dig deeper into His Word and then what's going on at this time. In one way that this really comes alive is just going outside and looking at it. This is so incredible. When Christ told His disciples, when you see these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. He meant that. Go outside and look up. It will give you a completely different perspective than just looking at computer graphics and stellarium and all that. And it's amazing how the Lord can give wisdom when we're out in the environment and we can see His creation. When we behold the heavens, when we see what they're declaring, you really do view it completely different than a computer program. The Lord can show us new things that we didn't notice before. And this was the picture I took yesterday on the 23rd with the moon and Jupiter. And I took it at sunset, which was really important because it enabled me to see visually the sign that was going on. Now, a question that a lot of people have had over the previous months and even years leading up to this Revelation 12 sign time, different people have asked the question about how is this supposed to be a visible sign if you can't see it during the day? And generally the answer is, well, you look at part of it in the morning, right before sunrise, before the sun comes and blocks out everything. Then you also look at it near sunset, after the sun has set, and then you can see more things. And by looking at it at these two times, you can see the different parts of it, and that they are where they are supposed to be. And then you could also see the glow of the sun and know that the sun's in the area too. And so it's neat just being able to go out the other day and see the moon and Jupiter in the proper places, right in Virgo, and everything's still generally there. Just the moon is about the only thing really moving further along, but it's still at her feet, below her feet right now. And the Lord just brought different thought processes to my mind today as I was looking at it and studying more the importance of the moon being under her feet, but also how John marks that it was visible. When we look at Revelation chapter 12, he's emphasizing that there appeared a great wonder in heaven. And then he goes in to describe what that wonder is. It involves the sun, it involves the moon, it involves the stars. This is a normal, natural, astronomical event. It's a great wonder because it's a rare, complex event. Its rarity and when it's rehearsing is so incredible. It's rehearsing the birth of Emmanuel. A virgin is giving birth in the heavens. That's what it's rehearsing. This is a 9-month sign. This is not a sign that is limited to a day or even just a few days. It takes over 9 months for this sign to be shown. That's why it's a great wonder. It's a long, incredible story that is rare and unique. It's a great wonder in heaven, using God's celestial clock. And it just caught my attention how he mentions there appeared a great wonder in heaven. It appeared. He saw it. And he emphasizes that the moon is under her feet. This is what he's seeing. And this is what different people have had questions about before of how can we see that? Because we can't see that during the day because of the sun. The sun's in the way. And again, you go out shortly before sunrise. And here's some pictures from spaceweather.com, different pictures that people have taken recently. Just before sunrise, you could see the moon. It's overexposed in this, and that's why it's showing full, but you can tell he's photographing just a sliver there. But just before sunrise, this photographer was able to see Venus, Regulus, Mars, Moon, and Mercury, all below Leo in that portion of the Revelation 12 sign, getting into their proper places, and just a few days before the 23rd. And so that's how this photographer saw those elements just a few days before September 23rd. but you'd still see similar things on the 23rd, but the moon would not be there on the 23rd. You would have to wait till sunset, just like here on the 24th, you'd have to wait till the sunset to visually see where the moon is below her feet. Still well below her feet. The sign is still ongoing. She's still travailing in birth. But these are the only two times that you can visually see the sign that's described in Revelation 12, when it truly appears. And both times you'll see the sun, you'll see the glow in the morning and in the evening around sunset too, so you'll be able to see that aspect and know where the sun is. So you can see the sign, but you just can't see it all at once. But you can observe it over time, just a few hours, but it's transpiring and it is visible. And again, what we're seeing is not a sign that just happens on one day. And so many people are dismissing this sign right now, forgetting that this is a 9-month sign. It was rehearsed over 9 months. We've seen this. We've been able to go outside and look at it, observe it. I've shown you so many pictures and photographs that I've gone out and taken myself. We've seen this pregnancy rehearsal ongoing. We've seen it building. We've seen it going through the loops. We've seen the sign of the Son of Man begin, and we've looked up and we've lifted up our heads, and we knew our redemption was drawing nigh because we knew time was running out, because there are other events that are pegged to this celestial date marker. This great wonder happens over a period of time, and that alone tells us we are running out of time. But going back to Revelation chapter 12, what John described that he saw, and here's a view from Izmir, Turkey, near Patmos, approximating what he saw. And I was thinking today, if you only see the moon at sunset, right after the sun sets, that's the only time you'll see the moon, because you gotta wait till the sun gets out of the way. What John is describing is he's describing a time that he is seeing the moon too. It's a very limited time. He's not necessarily describing the moon during the afternoon. He's describing that he sees the moon, and that only happens in a very short window in time frame. And he describes that he sees it under her feet. And so, with what we've learned recently about the moon really needing to be under the soles of her feet, I was just looking in Stellarium today on the 23rd, and recognizing at sunset, that would really not be a true fit for what John is describing with the Revelation 12 sign. Because on September 23rd, at sunset, which is the only time he would be able to see the moon is still behind her ankles, behind her heel. It's almost about under her soles, but it's not under her feet yet. And this just got me thinking, we've been doing a lot of research, which obviously there's no fault in doing that, with Stellarium, just trying to figure out when it's occurring. But it also needs to be married with real-life observations, looking up, lifting up our heads. And when we do that, we realize slight discrepancies, such as in Stellarium, we can look at it at any time of the day, but when we go outside in the real world and have to actually look at it, then we realize that there are constraints to this sign. John was not just seeing it at any time, he was seeing it at certain times. And then when we do research in Stellarium and look at the 23rd, we can then see that's not the best match for what John is describing, because the moon is not yet under her feet. It's real close, but this is not what John could be seeing because the moon is not under her feet yet. If we just compare it to the ecliptic, it's behind her ankles, it's behind her heel, but it's really not below her feet visually. The 23rd is not a really good fit. A later time, a later visible observation on the next day would be even better. And again, the next window when the moon could be seen, because you have to wait for the sun to get out of the way, would be an entire day later, an entire 24 hours later, on the 24th. And so this is a better fit for what John was describing he saw in a real-world perspective, realizing you can only see the moon at a very certain window, not just any time you want in Stellarium. John was describing something he saw, and the 24th appears to be a better fit for what John is describing that he saw, where the moon is under her feet. And it's during this time that she's travailing. And apparently it's going to be for a while, even up through the 25th, you can still say, 24 hours later, it's still, yes, under her feet. And proportionally, again, considering how big Virgo is, it's really not that far away. But again, it'd be 24 hours after the first sighting that John could have seen the moon at. And so there's a time period of when John would know that the moon would be under her feet. Even a 24-hour window, so to speak. And of course, we've been learning about the labor process. It can average out 20 hours for labor. It can go a lot longer than that. We've had different commenters talk about some of their labor pregnancies with their first child, how it went even beyond 20 hours. And so this gives us a new perspective on what John is describing. He's describing a woman travailing in labor, not yet delivered, while the moon is under her feet. And this is a period of time which even closely parallels a human labor. We've updated the Revelation 12-week timeline. We are always learning new things, so don't look at specific dates. We just keep in mind this is an important time, and the Lord's given us more wisdom of this sign and how it's matching what John saw and comparing it to real-world observations. And so I've been putting that information in here and just zooming in on this pregnancy time. In our last video, we talked about if you just marked an average labor for a first-time mother from the moment, technically, that the moon was directly under her feet, 20 hours out, that would have ended a few hours ago. But in consideration with what we've learned today, John would not have seen that. It would not be visible. And so his observation really of the moon under her feet, the first time we can really say that John would have seen it, would happen even a number of hours after that, about 1700 UTC time on the 24th. That would be the first time that he would see it. And then, of course, he wouldn't see it again till 24 hours later, which even closely fits the 20-hour average of labor for a first-time mother. So we see where we are right now on the 25th, matching a visible sighting in the real world of what John is describing with the moon being under her feet. And this is the time when she's travailing in birth, and she's pained to be delivered, but she has not delivered yet. And so we're in a time prior to the completion of the Revelation 12 sign. It has not been finished yet. It's still ongoing, and this is so incredible. There are so many things happening at this time. We've been learning about the ecliptic. We've been learning about the different aspects of the important celestial markers and the nodes. And we see here on the 24th that the moon is under her feet, and still proportionally close, it's under her feet. And she's in travail. She's pained to be delivered. And you can see all the other elements that people associate with the crown, and even where the sun is and Jupiter. Those have hardly moved at all. And that's the incredible thing. Between the 24th and even the 26th, about the only thing that really significantly moves is the moon. And even on the 26th, the moon is only less than even her entire body width away. Not even that. So the 26th is high end of it still being under her feet. But we can see that even 48 hours after an initial sighting, everything else is still pretty much close by. We can see this is an important time frame spanning multiple hours, even multiple days, which is not too uncommon with even a human pregnancy, even going over a day, over 20 hours, even over 24 hours. We're at a time frame where we need to be watching, because there is a lot coming together. Not just with the lion, not just with the woman either, not just the moon. We gotta always remember the context. What have we seen and learned about over the past 9 months that we've been observing this incredible sign in the heavens? We've been learning that there's major aspects of the dragon. There's 3 different ones, Draco, Hydra, and Serpents, that surround the main elements of the Revelation 12 sign and actually part of it too. But with the Revelation 12 sign, you have the woman, of course, and then depending on how different people count the crown, Leo, and that's obviously part of the story with Emmanuel too. But then, of course, you also have Arcturus and Corona Borealis referenced with the dragon too. And this is something you gotta consider when you go outside and look at it in the real world. You can see this a lot better. A computer program does not give this justice. You can really see a lot of this in context really well when you go outside and look at it. But we know that these are some of the major actors, and different people have different opinions on it. But the Bible also tells us that the dragon aspects are involved in this too. You have the red dragon, which is specifically Draco. But then the Bible tells us this time of indignation that is coming at this time of sudden destruction that's coming, does involve the other aspects of Draco, which are manifested in serpents and Hydra. We've looked at Isaiah 26, where he's talking about there's going to be a calling into the chambers for the sparing. Right before the time of indignation starts, he's going to be calling his people, his servants, into the chambers, and then the time of indignation is going to start. In chapter 27, verse 1, "In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish the Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even a Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea." Notice that the Bible tells us in prophecy that the tribulation time period, this time of indignation, is directed toward what, even in Isaiah's time, they knew to involve the 3 different major dragons in the heavens: Draco, Hydra, and Serpents. This needs to catch our attention because this is echoed in the book of Revelation too. The red dragon and the different aspects of the dragon. That's in there because that's related to this prophecy, to this timing. The sparing, the rapture, the gathering is going to be just prior to when the time of indignation starts. That's directed toward these 3 dragons. So it needs to catch our attention that these three dragons surround, in the heavens on the celestial clock, surround the Revelation 12 woman and the lion, and then the other aspects that are connected with Draco. This entire region that we're looking at is important. This is the whole area where the story is being told. And so, as we consider when John said the moon is under her feet, even on the 26th, we can still, in a sense, see that, yes, that's in the context of the entire story. That's in the context of the prophecy. Even the Old Testament prophecy with Isaiah. This time of indignation that's about to start. And especially if you are used to going outside and looking at the stars and recognizing where the different constellations are, you quickly get a feeling that the distance between a lot of these is relative. And so when the moon is at a certain place near serpents, that's really not that far away from Virgo at all. The distance is relative when you go outside and look at it in the real world. And when we, again, look at the story that's told in Revelation 12, it encompasses the woman, which, depending on your take on it, involves Leo. And, of course, that's part of the story of Virgo, who's bearing the lion of the tribe of Judah. So he is in the story, too. So we're not surprised that there's rare, unique celestial events there. And then with Kama Bernice in the picture, depending on your opinion with that, too, we know celestially already the context of just the woman takes up a large amount of space. And so we're not surprised to see the moon going some distance away but still connected with it, because other elements of the same story are equally spaced too. And you could even draw it smaller, just the woman and just the hair, but still, relatively things are close but also spread out. And then the dragon is up above with Draco, that's the fiery red dragon, and the horns and the crowns. And then when we consider the Isaiah prophecy that this is also going to be involved the other aspects of Draco, the entire Revelation 12 story, this entire pivotal celestial date marker at this time that relates to the time of indignation, takes up a good amount of space in the heavens, but it's told in a specific area. And so again, it catches our attention that the moon can be considered under her feet, but still in the story. And I think we can safely say up to the beginning of even the 26th UTC time, the moon is still in the story. And so when we look at the timeline, and definitely download it, it's been formatted to legal size now to really fit. So, but you can print to scale to fit it onto an 8.5 by 11, but definitely study it even just online. We're at a time where the moon is under her feet, so she's travailing in birth right now. She's pained to be delivered right now. And we can see that happening, occurring through the 25th. But then Sabine also shared some information relating to the fall equinox, which was the tail of the dragon. We've been studying that, and I just want to point that out. We noticed that on the 22nd as the fall equinox with the modern astronomy. But if we use the ancient perspective, it would be the fall equilux, which is equal night and day. And that would be a better fit for the tail of the dragon when the dragon is standing before the woman who's about to give birth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. It wasn't born yet. And so again, that should catch your attention. This is happening right in the same context where she can still be laboring and pain to be delivered. And it's a concurrent sign, really. The dragon is standing while she's still laboring to give birth, but while she has not given birth yet. And even in Aratus's Phenomena, I noticed this, line 529, when Phoebus cuts his equinoctial way, he gives to man the balanced night and day. When weeping autumn mourns the empty fields, and when to genial spring stern winter yields. And so this is unique because it's telling us and letting us know what the Roman and Greek understanding at the time of John. It lets us know that they considered the equinoxes when the night and day were balanced out, which is technically called equilux. That's when they considered the equinox, the autumn equinox, was at the time when night and day balanced out. It happened in the autumn and then also in the spring. Now, Phoebus is just an interesting side note because that is a reference to Apollo. That's another name for Apollo, which they reference with the sun. And the name Phoebus was literally bright, and so they're talking about Apollo, who they regarded as the sun god, who is also Apollyon, which is referenced in the book of Revelation 2, chapter 9-11. Well, lets us know this is what the Greeks know him as, Apollo, Apollyon, the same person. This caught my attention because a celestial date marker from an ancient perspective would have the fall equinox at equilux, and they connected that with Apollo, which is very interesting because the enemy is expecting Apollyon, to make his triumphal entry soon too as well. Their palm figure, their phoenix figure. And they certainly know what time it is. They know the sign of the Son of Man's going on. So it just caught my attention. But when we look at Izmir, Turkey, we can see between the 25th and the 26th, that is about when the days become equal. Days and nights become equal. 12 hours in one, 12 hours in the other. Sometime right between those two. And so I put on the timeline the fall equinox, when the ancients at the time of John and Paul would have regarded the fall equinox, which is really when the tail of the dragon would occur. And this would seem to be the celestial event that would mark the dragon still standing. She has not given birth yet, which also lets us know she's about to give birth, though, too, because that's what the dragon is waiting for. And this also fits within a pregnancy based on a visible sighting of the moon, the labor process ongoing even right now. And so this brings us up to the stars falling. How does this fit into the picture? Well, we've seen the last sign of the tail drawing the third part of the stars of heaven. And that ended when the draconic month ended. So we know that finished. We can confirm that sign. And even the enemy signaled that they knew that this was happening at that time. And shortly after we talked about it, there was in the news SpaceX dragons splashed down. Their dragons splashed into the sea. That's even one of the dragons mentioned in Isaiah. On the day of it ending that we were talking about. And they also had stars falling theme at the 69th Emmy Awards on the same day too. But a dragon falling, splashing down on the sea on the same day as a celestial event recorded in Revelation that we had just talked about that relates to the dragon that's in the sea. So we have a pretty good idea that this portion, this sign has been completed. This has been fulfilled. And even the enemy knows the next event is the stars falling. The next major event. They know sudden destruction is coming. And so this is what I've been looking at and I've been trying to convey in the time that we have with these videos. As long as she does not give birth, because these last two signs of Revelation 12 are concurrent and happen at the same time, the stars falling can happen at any time as long as we can't confirm she hasn't given birth yet. And so this is interesting to see as we study and get understanding about this celestial sign, how it's ongoing, and we could see additional learning about what's happening at the same time too with the next phase, which the stars falling happen between the tail drawing the third stars, and then the next one listed is when the dragon's standing still. The stars falling are in between those two. And as long as she hasn't given birth, we know technically the stars, this aspect of prophecy can still happen. And so we learn much by looking at the context, what is going on. And we also learn more as we go forward. We've been looking at Revelation 12 and how it describes the secondary sign with the dragon taking place before the woman gives birth. It occurs entirely before she gives birth. And so that's what's unique about the sign of the Son of Man. It's all pivoted on the birth. The sign is not considered complete until the son is actually born. And so until that actually takes place, these other events that have not taken place, such as the stars falling, that can still be fulfilled. We have seen the signs leading up to that fulfilled. And even the enemy seems to be confirming that. We've definitely seen the woman pregnant for the past 9 months too. So we're at a specific sign where we're awaiting the next sign. And again, this is why we look at it in context. What did Jesus say? You know, this is not things that I said. It's what did Matthew, Mark, Luke, and the Apostle John record about what Jesus said. This is the context and the sequence that Jesus repeated multiple times, saying this is the way it's going to happen, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. He wants us to know about this sign and things that are connected to it, before it and after it. But the pivotal marker is the birth part of the sign of the Son of Man. It's not appeared until the baby's born. So any time before that, the other events can happen. Now, we've talked about all this before, but the stars falling are a unique key identifier that he emphasizes and ties to the events in Revelation with that sequence too. It's all consistent. And so this is why we've been trying to nail down exactly when does the birth take place, because that confirms whether these other sequences have been fulfilled. And the Lord's given us wisdom that no, the birth has not happened yet, and there's actually more celestial events that are about to happen too. The events of seals 1 through 6, where the stars fall, those will happen in mere hours. And again, Jesus said immediately after seals 1 through 4, which also include 5, seal 6 is going to happen when the sun is dark and the moon's not giving her light, and that's when the stars fall and all that. So seals 1 through 6 will take place in a very short amount of time. But it's also during that time of perplexity too, so we got to keep that in mind. As long as the Revelation 12 sign has not fully completed with the birth, then all these other perplexing events can happen. These recent days have told us we're at an important time. There are important geopolitical events, there are important weather events, there are so many things telling us this week of time, these past few days are extremely important. The upcoming hours are very important. We're at a time when the world is expecting sudden destruction. I was reading just the other day about how this has been an unusually active hurricane season in the Atlantic, and it's definitely caught our attention, the names of some of the hurricanes that have been happening right now at this time. Hurricane Jose, which is Joseph, and Maria, which is Mary, and Lee, which is Latin for lion. Right happening in these days with the sign about the sign of the Son of Man. And Mary just hit the Virgin Islands. Right at the same time. There are so many things telling us to look up and to wake up. Even the enemy knows what time it is. These hurricanes don't name themselves. The enemy knows what time it is. This is a time we need to be watching. There are things we don't know, yes, but we need to be watching and trying to learn more about this time we are at, because we have so much telling us we need to be paying attention. Since August 24th, there have been at least one named tropical storm with winds of 39 miles per hour or greater active at all times somewhere in the Atlantic basin. This is unusual for just to be a continuous stream of storms building all during this time. And we know the enemy knows what stage we're at in the Revelation 12 sign. They know the tail time has finished. They know the time of perplexity is about to start. They know there's about to be some bizarre events happening. They know what time it is. They also know that peace and safety means sudden destruction's coming, because they are the ones who said it. They know what time it is. They know this is a time to be waking up. This is a time when we need to be awake, not sleeping. There's so many people going to sleep now, spiritually, because they're not paying attention to all the things coming together right now. We are the children of light. We are the children of day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. We have the Bible. We have so much instruction that the Lord has given us, foretold us about. We have no reason to be sleeping. Therefore, let us not sleep, as do others, but let us watch and be sober. We got to keep our emotions in check. We got to examine what's happening at this time and realize there are things we don't know. But let's watch. When we're at a time when we need to be awaking and watching, we need to be watching. Because we know sudden destruction is coming, and it's coming as travail upon a woman with child, and we're at a time when the celestial heavens are rehearsing a woman travailing with child. That should wake us up. That should tell us we need to watch. It was incredible just a few days ago, other rare celestial events with the moon blocking out 3 planets that were even involved in Revelation 12 sign. How the moon blocked out Venus, Regulus, Mars, and Mercury, all within 24 hours. Caught the world's attention even. They were remarking how it was a unique and rare thing that doesn't happen all the time. We have so many things telling us the celestial events going on right now are so important. We need to be watching them, and we need to be willing to learn more and dig more into their importance, and why this time is so important. We already know the Lord has shown us so much leading us to this point. We've seen the sign over 9 months just with the woman being pregnant. We've seen the day approaching. We're here. We have no excuse not to be watching. And so this is what we're going to do. We need to be the wise servants. We need to be like the wise men. We need to be the wise virgins, watching what we've been foretold, realizing this is a time when things we've been told about are going to happen. They're happening right now. And the Lord's given us more wisdom about them so we could see it even better. So we need to be watching. He has given us instructions. We are children of the light because we have the instructions. We have no excuse. We just need to read God's Word. We need to go out and look up. We need to lift up our heads. And we need to dig into God's Word and learn about what we see when we do look up. And that will tell us that our redemption is drawing nigh, and that it's nigh even at the doors. We are commanded to watch. We are the servants that the Master has left in charge while He's away. And He's told us to be looking for His return, to watch, and to live accordingly in light of His return. We are looking for Him to appear the second time. And every man that hath this open him purifieth himself even as he is pure. When we see the day approaching, that should affect how we live. And we have seen so much. We see so much going on right now. We see the Lord giving us wisdom. That is something we can see in our own lives. The Lord's showing us things. That's incredible. We can go outside and remind us of everything that He's shown us hitherto, what He's showing us now, how He's given us strength and wisdom even right now. We hear so many midnight cries telling us, the bridegroom cometh, wake up. Go ye out to meet Him. And this is what we're called to do right now, to rise up, to trim our lamps, to cast off the works of darkness, to put on the armor of light, to shine bright, and to serve our Redeemer, our Master, our Beloved, first and highest above all else. Maranatha.